All right, West Goats streaming from the underground. We have the answers to everything. Whoa, slow down. Chat room's blowing up. We got 10,000 viewers right away. Woo.
Yeah. All right. How's everybody doing? Portland Trailblazers last night with a nice ass whooping. It was nice.
Like they got their asses whooped?
Oh, no.
Oh
no.
Dude, is Shaq still playing for the Blazers, man?
No, he's
retired. Still in the Sonics?
He's a retired cop now.
Is he a cop?
Yeah, he's a police officer.
Seriously?
I think he's a reserve. I don't know.
State license registration.
I think I heard him actually, literally, I heard him say that. Those words.
Oh, fuck. So we were talking about what is shit and what is not shit.
Yeah,
and we're talking about how we have to come to a consensus, all of us do, about what is shit and what is not shit. Because if we don't agree on what's shit and what's not shit, that means everything's shit and then nothing has any value. Music, art, food, whatever. So the point is, we all have to agree when a piece of art sucks or music. Instead of like, nah, man, it's all perspective. You're just seeing it wrong. You know what I mean? Or like, no, it sucks. And we all have to agree that it sucks.
All right.
It's not a participation trophy. So like you were mentioning, like a picture of a pile of bum shit. Now, as we both know, bum shit is very uniquely and distinctly different than all other shit.
Sure. I've heard that. I mean,
in appearance, texture, and fragrance. Okay. So we have a picture of bum shit. Is it art? Yes, right? That's what we're saying. We all agree it's art. Right?
Morning, Tim.
Oh, motherfuckers. We're getting deep up in here, man. This is some serious shit.
So let me say, the level of art when it comes to a pile of shit, it's subjective. I'll say that.
So subjective is what I mean. We can all agree that to somebody, this is a piece of art that they love.
Okay.
But there still has to be a consensus, right? Where all of us say, okay, if we all chipped into a hat, I think 99% of us would agree this is bad art.
It's shit.
It's shit art.
Right.
But that's what I mean, like managing some type of distinction instead of just giving everybody a participation trophy and saying, "Oh, it's still good, man. Nick, you need to open your mind, man. Bum shit's beautiful."
Do you think that people are more acceptant of art if the artist is a kinder person?
I don't know.
Like, do you think if they're like, "Could you please display my pile of shit?" Like if they were really kind about it, or if they came like, "Hey, motherfucker, I'm gonna shit on your floor." It's art, bitch.
No, I got your question. So, what if it's somebody you like and care about too?
Sure. Or you feel sorry for, or, like has a problem that you're able to that you noticed about them that you say they're already having a rough go. Maybe I should let this piece of art in. Maybe I should like their.
That's fine, but the truth should still be told. The truth should still not told. Maybe just acknowledged.
Acknowledged.
And
acknowledged. We don't have to tell them.
Acknowledged amongst a committee. How do you use that word, among and amongst? What's the difference?
I don't know. I think it's just a matter of whether or not you want to sound smarter or more like the people.
Well, which one's actually the one that's supposed to be used? I don't know.
You have to do it again, probably. Tim, maybe Tim.
The consensus among the committee or amongst the committee. Sure. I don't know how to say.
I like it both.
Okay, we'll use them both.
Okay.
Anytime I say that word, I'll use both.
Do it.
But seriously, as long as we all agree, we're like, you know what, dude, we're gonna put your shitty piece of bum shit picture up in this art gallery because we love you.
Right.
But we all hate it.
And it smells.
And it's
it could smell. It could.
It's a painting.
Right.
A still life.
But so it's not actually shit.
That's now that's something I might be interested in.
I was thinking like a sculpture. Are we into now? We've crossed the line.
Oh, dude, no, you just gave me a great idea.
Okay.
Like a sculpture downtown Portland, but it's like a statue of a bum sleeping on a bench. Oh shit. I mean, that's what statues do, right? It's to commemorate or to memorialize, to remember. Like, if you want to remember Portland in the 2000s in 50 years, be like, yeah, people used to sleep on benches instead of in floating cars or whatever they have later on. Oh, that is funny though, right? Yeah. you put it up illegally. It's pop-up art. You just show up at night, put that thing there.
No, I think you just start, you make like 10,000 bronze turds that have like a long spike in the bottom of the turd, and then you go around town and you pound them into dirt here and there, just human, different, shapes. But is Calista telling us that we should change categories?
Yeah. Why? Because I should be playing music? Because I'm gonna.
Yeah, we were gonna
start singing right now.
We were talking about music.
Yo, living on the motherfucking street. Ha!
Okay, should we change right now, hun?
What?
Like, should we change?
Do we have like 4,000 viewers?
True.
No, I can play music,
I think
dude.
you should try this one category for a little testing. Okay. But we have to end the stream to change categories, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, and then we're going to get all the hate mail. We're going to get the hate emails and more death threats.
Oh, I don't? Okay. I don't have to end it.
Oh. Well, damn it.
Great.
That's what keeps our fame alive is the death threats. I need to grab a guitar, though.
Yeah, you should get a guitar. Right, but we'll still do the pod. I think we should be in the podcast category for Twitch. I think that's a good idea.
What category are we in?
We're in the music category.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, I mean, how's everyone doing? Lendo, what's going on, brother? Tim, how's your morning? Whoa. So what do I do there? Do I click on that or something? Do I type that into something?
Oh, man, here we go. All right.
Okay, I'll go click that. I'm going to go click that.
Which one?
The HTTP or HTTPS. The one right there, see? But it
So we were talking about pictures of bum shit. We were talking about how art isn't all good. And that we all have to agree on what's good and what's not good. You know what? There's some other shit in this world we need to agree on. We need to agree on, like, what color the fucking sky is. Am I right?
I think That's usually, I mean, yeah.
I just mean with like all the psycho shit in our world, in the political world, of just like saying shit that's just complete bullshit and then keeping a straight face even though you know it's bullshit. Like, we need to agree on what's bullshit and what's not bullshit. Just like we need to agree on paintings of sculptures of bum shit.
That's probably true.
No, it is true. Because there's some shit that just people believe that's just, come on. You got to have like at least a little bit of credibility behind it before we can agree and come to a consensus about it. You can't just say shit. So I saw this news story that California is reopening completely, dropping all social distance, masks, everything on June 15th. Did you see that?
Yeah. No, I didn't see that.
Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, it's probably for the Laker games.
But seriously, what do you think?
Oh, I'm kind of a little bit serious. Like, it's probably for the sporting event.
No, I mean, how do you feel about that?
Oh, I don't care.
Me fucking either.
Like, I mean, there's a window of time that people have had to get their vaccines and everything, and if they didn't want to or don't want to, I mean, I don't like that decision, but I don't want to make decisions for other people, and the opportunity has been presented for everyone, and so like now the suffering from the other end becomes, you know, a little like it's skewed. Like if the argument was we have a vaccine in the world when COVID came along, let's say, right? And nobody'd taken it yet, but we already had it. And they just said, hey, nothing's going to close down. Like, we're not going to, they never thought about closing shit down. They just said, take this vaccine or don't take this vaccine. And people that didn't want to didn't. And the people that did. And they never closed anything down. Nobody would think that was an unreasonable thing that the government did. People would think that was normal. Does that make sense?
Sure, a little bit.
Like, and so all this time passed, and fine, all that happened. But now we're at a point now where they can say, hey, here's a vaccine. It pretty much works. We have some time that we've shown that it's working. And so if you want to take it, take it. If you don't. And then just open the world back up. Like, yeah. It makes total sense to me, you know? It
does to me too. And I'm really... It was hard for any of us to imagine what life would be like today, a year ago.
Right.
You and me, we took like a month off of music, maybe longer. The world was shut down and weird. It was all new. None of us knew what to do, right? We all kind of acclimated to this new kind of crazy. So my thought is like, I can't, seeing how far off I was with my imagination of what the future would be like a year ago, I have it makes it even harder and harder for me to kind of imagine what it's going to be like in a year from now. Right. What the fallout from all of this is going to be. Like, fallout, like, on a societal level, but fallout too, like, on a legal level.
Yeah, it just becomes, it's too big. It's too big. The wave's too big to, you know what I mean? Like, it's a tsunami.
It is.
It's like right now, they really need to, people need to understand that, like, if things become too much worse when it comes to, like, regulations and, like, the whole employment concepts and stuff. I don't want to change the subject, but I'm saying, like, the housing and how people don't want to work and how, because there's not enough money to have a house, and the housing situation pretty much everywhere. And, like, that whole thing is a wave that's coming hard, and like some things have to change, or else like people's real lives are really going to change. And I finally start hearing that from what I think of just the average Joe. The way they talk now is like there's some shit going to go down. You know, like with each generation producing more and more people, without any new rezoning of land or any new land made available, really, like maybe not none. I'm sure somebody could tell me like there's this much, but it's not very apparent.
No, it's not. Well, the object, the goal. We're all born, raised, we go to school. is to maximize. That's what capitalism is. Not capitalism as a system, capitalism as an ideology and a way of thinking. Well, the way that we're raised to maximize. Meaning like every little avenue of America and every little, like, just for obvious example, like doctors, more people sick, make more money, maximize.
Yeah.
And that's like you just said, the tsunami that's coming is the collateral damage of that.
Yeah, and I mean it's a multiplier. It's like how much money will Amazon make? Well, it's just like it's like the curve is going straight up. It's all of it. That's how much.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it gets weird. So like that's going to be a decision at some point that everyone will have to make. And then it's like, because like, there's a way that like it can get so weird that like somebody could have so much money that like him, like he could just be like super into, say, like bowling, and like demand that everyone has a bowling alley in their house or something, like a bowling, like, I'm just being weird, but I'm just saying, like, it gets weird. And that's not really what we want. And like, I'm actually advocating for like middle millionaire types, like the middle guys, like the low, like $1.5 million. I'm advocating for those people to change the way they treat their land.
And
like
how they invest.
Yeah.
Something that's interesting.
They should be more loose. So it's actually kind of a Republican talking point, which is the regulations on smaller people who are like just millionaire. You know what I mean? They're the ones that should be able to do what they want to do.
It doesn't have to be a regulation.
No.
It could just be like I was just saying, like the way we're raised and brought up and schooled is to maximize.
Right.
We could raise our future millionaires to just be more proactive in investing in their local communities and putting their money in places where it works for everyone. And that's what I was going to say is like a billionaire, like I'll say, like the owner of that company you just mentioned, whose name I won't say. If that wealth just disappeared with him tomorrow, the world would never notice.
No.
The money doesn't even fucking exist is what I mean, because it's not working for anyone but him.
No.
Do you know, isn't that true though?
Yeah, not beyond.
Isn't that true? Because this company has paid 0 federal taxes, right? Like it's not working for anyone else except one guy. Meaning if that guy and that wealth disappeared right now, world would just carry on, and that wealth that was funneling to that one thing would spread out to everything else that's available, and the money would disperse amongst
that's what I'm
other
saying.
Companies and people. Then the world would never miss him.
But the problem is
never even fucking remember him.
The system as it is, though, and not that the system's written by the people, and the people allow the system, and everybody's somehow complicit in the system one way or the other. But the thing is collectively it's a bad system, and it's not to change the entire system. It's just that, like, for instance, there's like throughout the state of Oregon, there's these like large parcels of land that they're only allowed to make a certain amount of money, or they can't claim that they're this, and they can't build a house on, like, and they're huge, like 10, 20 acres, maybe, and they can only have one house. And like, it's just an obvious, like, it's weird. It's just weird. Like the fact that that's actually like really not looked at like total fucking socialism. Like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Exactly. Which is what we live with here.
That's crazy.
In Red River, because that's the way
government demand and what you do with your property.
It is, and what the government is the people from that community who got elected, and now they're influenced by people who have money and interests in that land.
But they're giving up that much money they could sell off like a really small chunk of the edge of an orchard and make like, $300,000 or something maybe, right? And they don't even want that money as much as they don't want those people there. Like it's kind of fucked up. Like there's really nothing else you could think to not try to change the law other than they just don't want people buying a house next to them.
Well, I don't think it's. I think that's part of it, but it's probably a lot more than that too. It's you look around you and you look how it's working for your neighbor. That's the kind of.
But I'm just saying, like, their kid would buy it
because
you know what I mean. Like,
we're so fucking forgetful, and we can't remember fucking 1 month ago, 2 fucking years ago. Like, I don't know. That's just how I see it. Like, especially if you're like a prospective home or land buyer or owner.
Right.
And I look at it like, cool, I'm going to raise my grandkids here or whatever.
Right.
But the truth is, no, Walmart's going to own this in like 6 years, and the city really can tell you what you can and can't do with your land. Like, you don't own shit. Nothing's certain.
Right.
So without any kind of reliability or consistency to it, it makes it unattractive.
But I'm saying even worse, it makes the lands, the pieces I'm looking at, or like I'm talking about, it makes you have to run a piece of land.
Right.
So it's like a fake way to make somebody that can't really afford to maintain a large piece of property have to like figure that out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without the machinery or resources or fuel or cost that it takes to just, fuck around with a large piece of property. So it only, you know what I mean? Like, you stack up all those things and you're like, okay, well, this is just obviously not made for people to just be able to just go in, take a shit, take a shower, just go to sleep, get up and go to a job that might just be not having to do with driving around and mowing like a 5-acre yard. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, the whole concept of maintaining property is somehow like you don't have another job, or what, you just don't ever want to go into your house?
Well, not everybody can do that, right?
Well, it's just ridiculous.
There's a lot of different moving parts in a functional society, I guess.
But I'm just saying, like, just to not have enough places where people can just live there. Like, just like it becomes just obvious. You know what I mean? Like, it's really easy to just make some houses where people could just buy them and live there. Yeah.
Right when you said that, the first thing that popped into my head was just my imagination of just like a video game, like one of those fucking video games where you like build cities and shit. What were those things called? It's like in the 90s and shit.
Like Sims?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think about when I think about that is I think infrastructure. I think, well, you can't just build here, build there. There's got to be systems, there's got to be roads, there's got to be shit that's in place. And then the first thing that pops in my head is, okay, I'm scanning like geographically, topographically Hood River, right? And I'm like, ooh, this place. I'm like, ooh, you need an easement here. You need, no. You'll hit a fucking dead end every fucking avenue you go down, because there's always going to be some fuck who's like, no,
I completely agree.
It's actually just interesting.
I just mean, I really mean is like they change over land, the type of land that it is, right? From like a farm zone to a residential area, and then when they do, the people want to build like a really expensive lot of homes.
Right. They want to maximize every square foot available.
And I'm not blaming them. I'm not blaming them for that. I'm saying
I am.
Well, I'm just saying because they do it in a block. Right, so they take a block away, and then of course, like you said, maximizing the space and the time. Okay, because of infrastructure, they're like, this place can take this.
Right, handle this many residences and fucking roads and blah blah blah.
So if you take like May Street, the end of May Street, and that density, that's acceptable, evidently. So you take that, you know what I mean? Like you take that.
Sorry, I was reading.
You take that. And you say, okay, that density is acceptable every so often in whatever there, you know what I mean, throughout the valley. But when you do get out of town a little ways, you have these gigantic fields that are only one house per gigantic field.
Yeah.
And then you go to the next field, it's one house per gigantic field. And that goes all the way to Mount Hood.
Yeah.
And there's little pockets here and there where there was houses being built in like little neighborhoods, but they're relatively small.
So I was just talking about maximizing before that, right? Where I was saying like that's like how we're raised. So that's why that shit doesn't happen. Nobody's gonna, like, for me, I would look at it like, hey, this whole big fucking chunk of land, what the fuck is that, a train?
Yeah.
Okay. We could build fucking some affordable small homes, a whole bunch of them, but there's no money in it.
I know.
So I mean that's
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's because there's an entire system that I don't think that I'm saying ever that it's good to take one piece of land and build a bunch of cheaper homes because of that reason and because of a lot of reasons.
It doesn't have to be cheaper. No. It could be nice, smaller homes.
Reasonable.
Yeah,
reasonable. But here's my point. They're not going to do that, and there's a lot of reasons not to do that. But here's what I do.
There's no money.
Could do. I know, but here's what you could do. You could let every 10 or 20 acre parcel build one more house per. And that would do the same thing times 10, but like dispersed through the whole valley. You wouldn't even notice it.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
Super easy.
It is super easy, and that's a good idea too. And again, it would never get done because the city and the developer would get involved, and they would say, "No, if we build this, we'll make more money."
Well, you just have to do something else. You have to get the people involved in it that would make the money, because there are a bunch of people who would make a lot of money for that do need that money. There are people who are like don't have that much money but have one of those pieces of property that would benefit a lot by being able to build one more house or sell one. Let's say you had 20 acres. All you could sell was 1 acre max, something like that, right? Out of 20, so you had to keep 19.
It's not a bad deal.
So it drops down that price. See what I'm saying? For that person,
right?
And then like just say it's like a first time buyer only, or something, and so that keeps it from ever being like people's rentals.
Oh, I love these utopian dreams.
Oh, yeah,
fantasies.
You gotta put them into video, right?
So let's get into some fucking dystopian shit, man. Like, where do you think this is going? I mean, really, like, I was just talking about how, like, a year ago, I was totally fucking way off in my imagination about what it would look like a year from now during this pandemic, the fucking election year, the riots and shit and protests, just the madness in the world. So, bro, what do you think the first sign of it's fucking over is? Some kind of supply chain that would be disrupted, obviously. Water.
Well, the problem is...
What happens when we've got no water?
I think, you want me to tell you? I don't know. Water's a good one. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know that that's going to do it. I'm going to tell you what's going to do it. Fast food chains shut down because no one will work there.
I've thought about this before, too.
Honestly, because like when you really look at it, if it wasn't for the fast food... through the pandemic, people would have died
because that was all they ate.
Well, but they need it for the psychological part. Like people can eat rice and shit, but they don't know how yet psychologically to be okay with that kind of life. And the depression is too much.
Well, something I've actually thought about this and had this conversation 20 years ago with a buddy of mine about how fast food chains also, too, they are keeping people fed with shit and keeping them away from actual edible things that like people like myself eat.
Sure.
Right? So what's the supply chain, right, of actual edible food in this country versus fast food? Well, meaning like if we had like millions of people who could now no longer access their Big Macs, they're going to come from my shit.
That's what I mean. That's where I'm going with this. And the companies that make... they all kind of make this from the same place, and so the fact that it's going to turn into a free-for-all for like the frozen corn dogs now.
So you think it's just like a deterioration of an all overall way of life?
Yeah, that's the only thing that takes you down.
Yeah, psychological.
See, wars don't affect that, right? Because people can get behind something,
a cause.
Yeah, but this like weird, like your own government. And your own, like, the people who are, like, giving you the stuff are, like, ripping you off so fucking bad that, like, they're just driving you down. They keep creating more, like, fake reasons why you can't, like, walk over there. Like another gate in front of something or something, you can't. There's just so many things you can't do. And then, so they funnel all these people into, like, one trailhead, like you were talking about today.
Right.
And then there's, like, fucking people like going 70 miles an hour and other people like getting out of their car on the side of the highway. And
wait, what are we talking about, man? I was talking about the end, yeah. Like where it ends. Yeah, so they were talking about like the societal breakdown. So you're saying it's already happened.
Have you seen the Tamanawash trailhead?
Yeah. Is that what you're kind of saying though? Is like, is that it's already kind of happening in some sense. And you're right, it is. And maybe that's the thing about about acclimating too is like if it doesn't happen all, it's amnesia. It's called landscape amnesia is actually a term. Have you ever heard that term?
No, I don't think so.
So landscape amnesia is a term I heard that was referred to like Easter Islanders. So they chopped down every fucking tree on that island.
Okay, sure.
Right? They destroyed their entire ecosystem. And this dude, this is book, Jared Diamond's book, Collapse. We've talked about the dude before, Guns, Germs, and Steel guy. And he's a professor, and he's talking about how one day a student asked him, what do you think was going through the head of the last Easter Islander, or the Easter Islander who cut down the last tree on that island?
Right.
And he said he had no idea. And that's what landscape amnesia is that over generations, and even with humans, it's really only like 2 to 7 years.
Right.
Right? That big oak tree you used to love and you were so mad that it got chopped down. You haven't thought about it in fucking 5 years.
Right.
Like it's your new reality. It's amnesia. So yeah, when it happens slow, when the societal breakdown is slow to come down, you might actually forget things were better 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
Just all around. And it wasn't just some kind of success financially, like people were able to buy homes or something. Like we still had the recession, we still had problems, but there was some kind of weird thing in the air. Hope.
Well,
right?
And that's kind
Isn't that what it is? It's like hope. Like, you know what? Things, we can still fight and things might get better.
Well, and that's
then
why,
as soon as that goes away, society just kind of
that's
goes with it.
Why I go straight to home ownership for people with regular wages is because I'm just tracing it back from one thing to the next, which is you have to have like basically regular working class people that own homes in communities to make what we call like our culture to sustain it. That's really what it is actually. And I don't know how you can make it that way, but you have to figure out ways to make it that way.
It's a way of thinking and from society, well, right? Like I'm just being nice to your neighbor, kind of. As cliche as it sounds, like.
Yep.
Like, fuck, hey, that sucks that you don't have the swimming pool I got, but keep working, dude. And maybe you'll get it. Or like, what can I do to help? Want to borrow my lawnmower? Fuck,
like trick or treating, like things like kids walking around your neighborhood, like I listed, and then that stemmed into like things like baseball or whatever, skateboarding. Those things come from people being able to go out of their house and the kids being able to go play, and then the neighbor coming down the streets like, oh, there's those kids, and they slow down. Like. There's an investment into the entire area.
Absolutely.
And when you think you don't need that, you don't really think about it, and there's your amnesia.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And like, so I'm trying to fix it in my mind all the way through those, accepting that that's just the way that is. And then you get back to, well, how could you change it? Well, you have to make people who are just young, that are just coming up, and they decide like, I'm going to get a job. Like in a field that's like whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. But whatever the money they make, there has to be at least the hope that job could lead, not through like being the boss or something, just the same job that they're starting to do could lead to them getting a house, so that they can have pride in a job that actually needs to be done. And whatever the job is that we have in this world, they all have to be done somehow. Right. I think we proved that.
Yeah. And
so that's why the lowest job has to actually be able to buy a house.
Right.
Or you're kind of fucked.
Well, yeah, he's fucked.
So that's how far away it is. That's how far away it is. And I'm just saying, I know that people don't understand motivation, positive motivation, but they get a lot out of this.
Yeah.
Everyone would get a lot out of this because those people... They get motivated. People get motivated to start working and stuff, and like everyone makes more money. The people that own those places make way more money.
And then money. The other thing people forget is money gets spent.
Right.
Spent. It means like if your fast food worker neighbor makes more money, they're spending more money at your store.
Right.
Like all over
and it's not. It's honestly, if you
goes around.
If you combined a little bit more money from the owner into the business, and a little less regulation, and let people be like personally responsible for themselves a little more, so the government's not dipping into the owner's pocket so much for the business costs. See, like things can be moved around a little bit, And
I think it's directly related to the housing cost.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, directly related.
They're all justified by the next thing.
Like, utilities can be like negotiated because there's ways to keep your utilities lower, and there's programs to help you pay utilities. I'm not saying it's fair, but I'm saying it's manageable. Rent is not even fucking close to manageable. The first fucking job I ever fucking got, I couldn't fucking believe it. I mean, who can?
Right.
You know, I was like 17 or something, and I got my check. I'm like, wait, is this a joke? I'm like, they take the... Do you know how much my rent is here?
Right.
Like, this is me in 1995.
Right.
Trying to wrap my head around how anybody can fucking make enough money to just survive.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like, so it's just housing. It's all housing. It's all rent. When 70-80% of your income goes to rent, rent's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
100%.
And
it's not wages, it's not taxes in your business, it's fucking rent.
Well, and the thing is that, like, if you go to towns where rent is higher, then the housing's higher because people want to be there. So that's why the like loop that's weird about it is those people want served, but then they somehow also tell you you should move from there while you're serving them because the town isn't for you.
Because you can't afford the rent. Yeah.
It's like, so, what kind of fucking crazy, like, you fucking idiot, are you going to serve yourself?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so stupid.
So what it devolves into is, I don't know if you're familiar with Sun Valley, Idaho.
I've heard of it.
So I worked there. Now, how the hell are you going to work at Sun Valley for minimum wage and live in one of the most expensive places in the country? They have dorms.
Sure.
I shared a fucking dorm room with a dude that had shared, bathroom, shower, fucking facilities and shit like that. It was basically like, like you're a fucking...
shit camp.
Yeah, it's like a shit camp for all the shit people who can't afford to live there, but they need all the labor.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've heard about Sun Valley recently. No, you haven't, because the town's so shitty, nobody wants to go there anymore. And that's the inevitable fate of Hood River.
Yeah,
that's the exact same fate. We're witnessing it right fucking now.
Well, except for that there's most of Hood River's actually not just Oak Street. It's mostly actually the Upper Valley and all the orchards and stuff. So, meh. It's just realistically when you say Hood River goes down, in reality it's just the downtown businesses not being able to get shit done like they want to and not make the money they want to. But in reality it's such a small little thing. Like, it's like people go and they park and they get in the river. You know what I mean? Like, they buy a coffee. They might just mean like dinner. This. Like, there's not that much going on here. You know what I mean? Because there's just a mountain or whatever. Right. It's not, it's close to Portland.
If you can't find employees, though, your businesses are going to close down. You don't have a community here because you've pushed the community out, and now it's all just people from elsewhere own all the homes and rent them out to whoever the fuck. So you've got no community. You've got nowhere for fucking employees to live. What's next? What's Hood River look like in 1 year from now? And what I think it's going to look like is it's going to be every other business is fucking shuttered.
Right.
Straight the fuck up.
Well,
dude.
I think what they do in Hood River...
It's already happening.
I think what they do in Hood River is they let people do whatever they want to some degree. So there's people living, like, all over town, like in people's garages. And, those are a lot of, like, little available spots. And so, like I said, I think for the size of it, because it's small... like the actual amount of restaurants and you know what I mean, to keep that amount of employees alive, I think they'll be able to do it here. But when you go to like I said, you go to places that are bigger, that are less housing there to begin with, like Jeff mentioned Sun River, like that's a good example. Like people have to drive from Bend, and so you're getting into this kind of thing where you're like everybody lives out of town. Because there's definitely nowhere to live there.
Right.
So that's how they staff. And like there's that kind of, it gets more ghetto and ghetto and ghetto and ghetto and ghetto. And pretty, you know what I mean? Like the people who apply, it's like, whoa.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
I do. And that's the funny thing too. Like, and I say it's funny because I've just been watching it. Right. It's like Hood River is like this dude who's loading a pistol and pointing it at his head, and I've been watching it for years. Like, oh, I wonder how this is going to end up.
There's just so many people that build
seriously.
There's so many people that just build gigantic houses all over the world and only go there for a little bit.
Yeah.
And hire like a local landscaping company to make sure it's like looks good.
Yep. Yeah.
And then like maybe a couple of their friends visit a couple times. And like living amongst that is just putrid.
Yeah.
I don't know how you stop it. It's just stupid.
How you stop it is you have some people who are brave. You have city council who have backbones and have a moral compass. And you have a community that is behind that city council. And what you have in Hood River is the exact opposite. You have literal fucking housing development lobbyists and their families making decisions about where fucking houses should be built and how the housing market should be regulated in the city. And here, I'll give you a hint of how it's regulated. It's not. It's a free-for-all. It's been like this for a long time. It's also not exclusive to Hood River. It's kind of an Oregon thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
You know that about this fucking state. This state's like, it's the place where like you could be running some shitty business in Massachusetts and the whole town can run you off. This is like in 1955.
Right.
And then you can come out here to Oregon and do business as usual. Right. Like you can just be a piece of shit out here and live your life because nobody will fucking know you're here. And the result is 70 years later. These people have raised families here. These people are in city council. Oregon's a really weird place like that. It's like the Wild West when it comes to how things go county by county, municipality by municipality. Mm-hmm. Like it's more universal in Washington, right? Even if you go into California, like the neighborhoods all look a little different, but everybody does things the same.
Sure.
In Oregon, it's no. You're in one county and they're like, full on hardcore right wingers, like get out of my town because you got long hair.
Right.
If you go to the next town, they're like, whoa, you're too country for this woke part of town. You know what I'm saying? Like, where's the middle? Yeah, dude, seriously. That's Oregon though, but that's the thing. That's the thing with Hood River. That's why like the more this goes on, the less there is of a community to support change here.
Right.
There's less people with kids in schools here. There's less people raising families here, and it becomes a point where it's straight up Sun Valley, Idaho.
Well, I don't know. It's its own thing because it's like it's just it could maybe Sun Valley is a great example. I'm not sure, but to me, Hood River has this other strain of it's so diverse and it's so odd that like now you have people that are so wealthy that really just had regular jobs, but they happen to be in fields that just got like crazy amounts of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And other people had like basically good jobs, but like in a field that just kind of crept along like regular. And then like those people landed in completely different places. Like some things are just worth so much more. It's like the Wild West, like you say, but in the housing market, it seems like a Bitcoin type thing where it can just go crazy up, crazy down, and you're basically just talking about somewhere to take a shit.
It's the same. It's for the same reason too, and it's for the same reason. It
makes people into like you said, it puts them in charge of everything. When you're like, wait a minute, what did you do? You did some you did some paperwork on some land, and now you run everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just weird.
Oh, what do we got here?
City council straight up from out of town. Developers put money in their pockets and completely flip for me. City lots.
Yeah, it's an unchecked industry in an unchecked side of town, basically. And especially if you're small enough, people aren't paying attention, or they're like, not my problem. And that's kind of what's interesting and I want to say entertaining and amusing about what's going on right now in Hood River with the employment thing. Because until businesses are shuttered, nobody's going to believe it's real.
Well, they'll just try it again. What I see happening is that it's already done that for a long time. They've already gone down because of shitty employment and shitty ideas.
Hood River has?
Yeah, and what they do is they sell to another millionaire. And the money's piping in at such a high rate. And then that fool fucking buys it and renames it and redoes it, and it still fails. And then they go again. And the reason it fails is because they don't want to work or pay someone to work. And so everyone's kind of a dick and nobody cares. And like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of obvious, but I don't know how you fix it, because that would actually mean that someone that already had money doing something, nothing at all, which like was probably like a trust fund or an inheritance, or they sold a house that was they bought for really cheap and then it was worth a fucking fuck ton. In some kind of way, they're not a baker, but they own a bake shop or something. You know what I mean? They just don't know how to do it. How do you blame them? Like, if you want to be something, you have to be kind of fabulous at it. I don't really get it. That's the whole point. You know, and then you open a business because you're really good. But the people who are really good could never own a business because it's too complex and too expensive and things, you know?
You know what?
They're the ones that are good at it.
You know what I was just thinking about too? Because I was talking about rent, right? About businesses. If you can't afford to live somewhere. I mean, that's we were just saying, is that all of this is directly related to the cost of housing. Meaning like people can't afford to pay the fucking rent. Well, something that just crossed my mind is where I worked here in Hood River at Solstice. I can't remember how much it was, but it was a shitload of money that the owner of that business pays for rent too.
Right.
I was just kind of thinking about, like, see, the thing I know, there's two things here. One of them is that company that I worked for him, and I know directly how much money that business makes. Sure. And it's not that much. Right. And I if it was my business, I couldn't afford to pay me any more than he was paying me. Sure. It wasn't like he was raking and swimming in fucking gold coin vault like Scrooge McDuck or something. I know. Right. So that's one. So the other one is, when I first moved here, when I was a teenager, my first job was at Mount Hood Meadows, where I made $7.50 an hour. And my first day on the job, I was at the bottom shack of Daisy, and the two guys said, "So what made you want to get a job here?" And I said, "I got to pay my rent." They both just busted up laughing. Sure. I really didn't understand, and I kind of felt like I'd been duped or something. Do you know what I mean? I was young, bro. I was on my own in the world. I'm like, wait, what are they laughing at? Like, right. I can't pay rent with the money here? They're like, that. And this is... So those two businesses I just mentioned, one of them makes up $1 billion and pays people minimum wage. Right. The other guy, Aaron at Solstice, pays his people as much as he can fucking afford to the penny. Right. Like, he'll do anything he can to make those people happy and to give them as much as he can afford. Sure. So there you go right there. $1 billion corporations, $1 million corporations paying minimum wage, and the local guy is paying like $5,000 a month for rent on his fucking building, while his employees are paying fucking $2,000 a month to the port. For a fucking, yeah, dude, fuck. To the port. To the fucking port. Like, it's a bloodsucker. This city's a bloodsucker. Yeah. It really is, dude. But I'm going to guess most cities are like that. You know what I mean? Probably. What do you mean? Like, whatever Hood River's doing, like, you go to another city and there's a scam to unfold somewhere in there. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and that's why people have such a fucking distaste for government right now, and like on every level, everywhere. It's because it's gotten to the point where almost everyone agrees. You know what I mean? And like, once you have that, you got something different. They're all old school redundant systems, and now we all know it because we have access to learn about them. We have the information to find. Like, we talked about the IRS the other day. Right. What the fuck is the IRS? Why? And the American public's like, they don't even talk about it. They're like, no, you know what the IRS does? They spend $50,000 getting $200. That's the IRS model. Like, this is the most outdated, like redundant system. Dude, these guys have like the most like outdated, redundant administrative shit going on. Like, we don't need the IRS. No, penny. They're like the penny. It costs 3 cents to make 1 cent. Dude, seriously, it's such a fucking redundant system. There's so many systems like that, and that's the other thing about the police departments and the defund the police movement. See, what that really means is it sure would be nice to know exactly how much money these departments are paying out in civil suits. If your tax money goes to your local police department and they're shelling out 120% of their annual budget on fucking civil suits,
yeah, something's wrong.
what the fuck, man? Don't you want your money back? And they're like, no, that's fine. No, it's not fine. It's a redundant system. Bunch of fucking waste of fucking money.
That's
just
actually,
like the IRS.
And that's actually not even really like that's an old argument in a sense, you know, because it's actually been that way for a really long time, well before people even made up the defund the police concept.
Well before, because they don't have to disclose it. There's no law that says police departments have to. They do still sometimes, right? When they release, like, we just settled a $28 million suit with the Floyd family. Isn't that what it was?
Well, and that's the brilliancy of this.
So they had to, for PR reasons, release just that one civil suit.
Well, here's the thing.
$28 fucking million.
Here's the thing.
Tax money. Tax money.
Here's the thing, Nick. That makes that argument universal. Like, even people who aren't necessarily like feeling any way about the racial aspect of the policing, like even people who aren't into that aspect of it, for instance, right? They should still be concerned with the financial aspect.
Absolutely.
Right? So
yes.
I don't understand how when we hit something like the Pentagon, how is everybody not on the same side of, okay, wait a minute, let's just at least figure out what they're spending money on.
They failed their IRS audit 4 years in a row. Did you see that?
Yeah, but I mean, it's like,
what the fuck? The Pentagon?
So the IRS is full of shit, and the Pentagon's full of shit, and everybody pays for that.
Right.
What I don't understand is how is everybody that pays taxes not on at least one similar side, which is what do we pay for? That's simple. That is not like any kind of cultural argument.
Or political.
It's not abortion, not abortion, transgender, not transgender, no gay, nothing, no black, white, nothing. Like, it just has to do with when you pay tax money robotically, can we, for one, agree that we should come up with a system that's more easygoing, like straightforward, like transparent. You know, you pay this much for taxes and this is how much it is. And then, you know, this is how much it costs for people that make this much and have this much money and whatever. And here's where the money goes. Right. And that's it. And that's what taxes should be. And there's computer systems that are easy to build at this point for, like, bank accounts and all kinds of different things that people trust all the time. So there's no reason to think that you couldn't.
I kind of look at it like these systems in the way that you're right. And I kind of look at it like this, like the way these systems and how they've gotten here is like this, like, it's like this robot. And pieces of it keep falling off.
Right.
And then we keep putting something there to fix it. And eventually it's just this unrecognizable monstrosity. Right? And so to translate that to what I mean, it would be, well, tax loopholes. Right. So we pay taxes. This is how it works. And then one guy's like, what if we changed it so it was like this? And then another guy's like, hey, can we just, what about this? Hey, we can get a break here, get a subsidy. You can get a subsidy over here, get a, no, over there. And in this bracket, that bracket. Maybe if I need this much over here. Next thing you know, you have this monstrosity, this redundant monstrosity that makes no sense, because the more you modify it, it cancels out something else.
Right.
And every fucking time you try to fix that again, it fucks up another thing until you just have this complete dysfunctional system, which is our current tax system.
Well, and
it's just yeah.
And so to me, what does everybody a disservice when it comes to, like, anything they care about? Doesn't matter what it is. If you're into the environment or if you're into better education about people avoiding abortions because of the adoption that they could maybe go through or something, whatever it is that you care about, could have more money spent on it if you cared about this. And so I still always go back to, like, people who don't want to deal with this, they hurt everything they do care about by not caring about where your money goes and how the government spends your money.
You're right.
And
you kind of said something earlier I wanted to touch on.
It's the number one important thing.
It's like how it does become political when you try to have a conversation about it because of the climate and the environment we live in. I think you were trying to allude to that, meaning like in the one example I was giving of the George Floyd case, if you wanted to have a conversation with a conservative about wasted money in police department civil suits, they would treat it as a political conversation about, you know, Black fucking lives matter, about this or that. Like, they want to talk politics, but you're like, no, can't we both agree that we don't like the waste?
Right.
That the civil suit paid out means a mistake happened. That's what a civil suit settlement is. It means you fucked up. It's not a mistake.
Right.
It means you fucked up at your job so bad that your department had to acknowledge how shitty of a job you did and then shell out the entire annual budget to one fucking person. And like, why can't we both agree that's crap?
Right. If everybody was like a snowplow driver, like there was 10 snowplow and they killed 10 people and had to pay out of the county budget for all 10 of those deaths.
That's a great fucking example.
People would flip the fuck
out. And you're so just
and I
nailed
don't
it,
understand
bro.
how people can't just get their fucking bullheaded dumb heads out of their fucking asshole.
And they wouldn't be like trying to rationalize it like we do with the cops. Just like, snowplow driving's a tough job. It's hard to see out there. You got to give these guys a little bit of credit, man. That guy was wearing white.
No one's asking cops.
Like, they're just fucking rationalize it however they can.
The thing is a cop will say, I pull these people over, and I don't know what I'm getting myself into. Don't pull them over then.
Boom.
What are you doing?
Boom.
What are you actually doing?
My mom was a cop.
Why are you trying to pull people over all the time? What did they do wrong? Just write them a ticket. Like, you got the license number. Just fucking follow them.
Right. My mom was a cop.
You know,
my mom was a cop. I told you this a bunch of times. Let me say this really quick. I just talked to her about this the other day. It was interesting because she doesn't talk about it much. And she was telling me, she's like, Nick, when I was a cop, traffic stops are the most dangerous part of being a cop.
Right.
It's because you have no idea what you're walking into.
Right.
So she's like, we avoided traffic stops at all costs.
Right.
Like a taillight? Nah, fuck that. We don't even know who the fuck that guy is. Like, yeah, deal with that guy later. What's a taillight gonna
Especially
get?
at
You're
night.
Get shot over a fucking taillight?
No,
Are you
it's not a
fucking
brake
stupid?
light. If it's a brake light and it's dangerous,
Fuck.
maybe there's like certain situations you're like, wow, this guy has no taillights and it's the middle of the night. You got to pull him over. It's a safety thing and you're going to have to risk it. And you have a pistol. And you got a bulletproof vest.
Sure.
And you got training. So I hope that's the best we can do. But then you get a pension. You know what I mean? You get a retirement and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Another thing you could do to handle that situation. And if I was a cop, this is how I'd handle that. I'd flash the dude. I'd light him up. And I'd pull up alongside of him. And I'd say, hey, dude, you got no taillights.
Right.
I don't want to get out of my car and put myself in a vulnerable situation. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get shot over this, but I don't want this guy killing somebody.
At least you can have a mini conversation with him, so at least you can find out. He could be just like, oh, shit, I don't.
What? Yeah, and the other thing is that you've got two options if you're a cop. What are you going to do? One of them is, are you going to fix his fucking taillight?
Right.
That's
you're going to follow him.
That's exactly.
You're going to follow him home.
You're going to follow him home is option two.
Because you work for the government.
Exactly.
You work for him.
And you're there to protect the public, so you're going to help the guy with no taillights instead of like, you know what? You got anything in the car I should know about?
Right.
I'm going to escalate. I'm going to create an event where there is no event, and then I'm going to put my life in danger.
Maybe like a light little microphone thing, like outside the car, where you have to roll the window and be like, hey, bud, how you doing, man? I just wanted to let you know your taillight's out, man. And, like, you get a bulletproof glass, even if the guy had a Uzi. You'd be like, oh, okay, I guess you're mad, man. All right, I guess I'm going to bail, and bring in the helicopters and the SWAT team to take you out, bro, later. Woo! You know what I mean? Like, get out of there.
Yeah.
That's my reenactment of a fake Canadian police officer.
I love it. But, yeah, what a fucking waste of money. What a fucking waste of time. What a fucking waste of resources. And I think conservatives and everyone else, because there really isn't liberals, it's just conservatives and everyone else, I think could agree on that. That we all agree that waste sucks.
Well, like the food waste, right? Like people throw away like a bunch of food. Like not just the food at your house, but like some people get food at their house. It's because they buy bulk food. And so food is sold in bulk in some weird ways or packaged in ways that creates way more waste. And then it gets thrown away like before it even gets used. And then then the companies that make it also get subsidies. So you got like these weird combinations of things going on. So
that's kind of a different podcast.
No, but I mean, like, I think that in itself too also contributes to it because again, like you have like kind of fake jobs then. So it's perpetual, because like there's a bunch of people making food that doesn't get eaten. So look at all those people's jobs don't really need to be there.
Right.
Because it's not even the right amount of food.
Some of those, I really think that some of those kinds of redundancies are either unavoidable or like I just don't have the intellectual power to
But think about
figure
that.
out the math of how some of those redundancies can be avoided. And I'm talking about like farming.
Well, that means you can pay all those
Talking
people.
about
You never sell that food, which means you could pay all those people even without selling it. That's how much money they have. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like, just wrap your head around that gigantic number of humans that truck around food that's never purchased. Right. You know what I mean? Like, they're all getting paid massive. It's like whole companies.
Right.
And so you take all that away, and you got actually this people, everyone's still eating, and nobody's even doing those jobs. There's not even any of that pollution or any of those people on the roadways or anything, which just like opens up the roads for all the other companies and people who really do have to do the stuff. And then it also makes like all this huge amount of workforce of people who would like gladly just share your job with you, 20 hours each.
Yeah, I was
and then also like the only problem is the housing.
Yeah, and you just kind of what you also mentioned there too, like the redundancies in subsidized farming is even a more monster of a Frankenstein monstrosity of shit. Like, dude, it's like inconceivable how fucking deep that rabbit hole is when you try to wrap your head around farming and how it works too.
They care about the environment and they care about like pollution and stuff like that. And like you were talking about that cylinder you weren't able to dispose of.
Right.
That's like a fucking that's never happened in human history.
Yeah, I don't get it.
And here we are, dude. And that's like so you're renting a house and you have a cylinder that you have to dispose of, and there's nowhere to dispose of legally.
Nope.
And someday you'd have to move, and you'd have to take that cylinder with you somewhere to the next place.
You know, and that's why
technically legally.
And you see what I made a joke about is I'm like, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw that fucking propane cylinder on the side of the road,
right.
And then I'm going to watch the motherfucker who picks it up, and I'm going to see where they take it.
Right. Right.
That's where I'll fucking take her.
Yeah. And then we'll tell everybody. We'll let you all know. It's got to
go somewhere. Right. If I threw it on the side of the road and illegally dumped it, what are they going to do with it?
Right.
Tell me where you're going to take it, because I'll go fucking take it there. Like, what the fuck?
Well, that's where, like, the Robin Hood. It's the Robin Hood concept. It's like back in Robin Hood days, and people would, like, they were starved to death. And Robin Hood's a mythological character. I'm aware of that. Please don't correct me in the chat. I'll be 43,826 people.
25 now.
Sorry, Jim.
Lost one.
Excuse me. Heart to my. But back in those days, you know, people would like see a fucking rat running across the street and they grab it to eat it, and then they get like, you know, like arrested for killing the king's rat or something. You know, like, I'm just saying, you didn't get to eat.
Right.
Unless you worked for what they gave you money to eat the food. Like,
that sounds awesome.
You couldn't like hunt deer. And then now, like, people would tell you now, you know, like years ago when people started making you have license to kill deer, they'd be like, well, what the fuck, man? Like, what? You know, that's a wild animal. Like, you think I couldn't go shoot it? I mean, imagine that line when they decided to do that. Imagine what people thought of that back then. Like, how much that was a government overreach. Because, you know, in reality, like, if you need the food, I mean, yeah, if somebody's blatantly wasting it, there may be some other law. Like, you know, if there's somebody that's just got like 100 deer and they're, you know, just murdering, you know what I mean? There's some kind of way to do it, right? That it maybe be illegal not to use the animals, the food as food or something. But if you were doing that, like, you know, you could, then you're making the argument that says, hey, people need to just fend for themselves, and like the world is hard. So, you know, you got to make it if you got to make it. Well, that does create a situation where you're like, okay, fine. Then I'm going to go build a little cabin in the woods and I'm going to kill deer and eat them. But they don't let you do that. And that's really the thing that pushes you back to the, okay, so you're forcing me to legally rent a house or buy a house on a piece of property that's zoned for that. And you're forcing me to buy food only from the supermarket that's like an FDA approved food, because that's all that's allowed at any of the restaurants. And so then you're forcing a person to get into a situation where they're like, I mean, okay, I'll get a job, which kind of, that probably sucked when that line happened in society where someone realized like, okay, I guess that's my only choice now. So they did that. And now we're at the point now where they're like, okay, now I work all the time I have, and now there's nowhere to live.
Right.
You see what I'm getting at? Like, It's just stupid. After a while, it becomes stupid where you're like, okay, wait a minute. And I think we hit a wall where we're like, okay, how dumb is this?
Yeah, how dumb is this? And, you know, that's the sad part of it all. The division The division, dude, of us just being so at each other's throats over just the most trivial shit.
Right.
While meanwhile, we're just blowing money on the IRS, blowing money on the Pentagon, blowing money on negligent police departments.
So much extra money.
So much fucking waste and redundancy. And we're at each other's throats talking about like some fucking deep state fucking flat earth fucking anti-vax Q fucking whatever they're called. Lizard people shit. Like just fucking fiction and imagination. And we're just frothing at the mouth over this shit. You know, really seriously, like the January 6th riot.
Yeah.
That's what I see. Like those guys with froth on their lips, like, that's where their energy's all there. And right behind them, the government's just blowing money on bullshit. And they're like, fuck that.
No.
Like, no, we should be together on this.
No.
We should unite on this.
No.
Yeah, it's so weird, bro.
I know.
It's so weird. It's weird. And I mean that. I mean, because I've seen some shit and I've been in some disagreements, but this is different. This is like a fucking movie.
It's gotten weird.
Psycho, batshit psycho.
No, I literally watched Resident Evil the other day, and I thought to myself, this seems normal.
Yeah, dude, seriously, like with the aggression, you mean, of like zombies and shit like that. Yeah, dude, seriously.
Just the unpredictability of weirdness.
The enthusiasm too. I don't understand. Like, remember like during the wildfires here?
Oh yeah.
There was like the whole, you know, the rumors, Amphita, blah blah blah. Uh-huh. And there was like just the weirdness of like dudes out where I work who were like setting up roadblocks to stop people from coming into their neighborhoods because they were told people were coming in to set fires. Right, and they're parked. The irony of it, and I'm not trying to talk about this subject. I'm kind of trying to relate it to why can't we just get along and agree on shit that sucks? That the irony is my fellow neighbor, who's got an American flag on his truck that stands for freedom, is blocking passage on an American road that we all paid for. Sure. Like, and I'm not trying to complain about the situation.
The irony.
I'm just trying to say, dude, shouldn't we be working together to like help prevent forest fires?
Right.
And instead, this is what we're doing. We're talking about some mythical group of people. Like, it's like having a conversation about fucking Bigfoot, dude. Sorry, man. I agree. But like Amphita is just as elusive as Bigfoot, man. The camera's always grainy and shaky.
So check it out. So as they're preventing a fake thing from getting them, they're perfectly good in living a life that says, what if it happened to happen to me? What if it happened to react to this? I need a gun. It might happen. Right. It's rare. Probably won't, but it might. Right. But then the COVID vaccine comes along. And then their argument is the exact opposite. You know what I mean? Yes. So it becomes so groupthink, which should dawn on people. They're not thinking for themselves individually. They're just following someone. They don't know who. You're welcome to follow us Thursdays and Sundays typically. But following someone else without really thinking about, like, what does this actually personally mean to me? And what do I think about it? And what do I even know about this? How do I have emotion about things that I don't have any access to the information about it? Like, and when you really add it all up, you know, it's like most of my whole thinking comes from what I can't know. Yeah. Like, it's like I'm not interested in having an argument about something like, say, religion, because you can't know very much about it. It's just a lot of people's opinions about stuff. And so, like, I don't really know. I'm not interested in it because it doesn't really have any kind of conclusions. No. And so what's the point of talking about it? I like sports a lot because there's like a huge backbone of like statistics and like things happen. Somebody wins, somebody loses, they hug afterwards and we move on. And so it like makes sense to me. Well, that's what you just said too, is what I've been thinking about when you think about like religion. And I think about how, you know, somebody can believe in a talking snake with zero evidence. Right. But they disbelieve in the science behind climate change that might have some evidence, even if it's the tiniest bit. It's like what it tells you, and Sam Harris talks about this all the time, so you know the shit. The psychology of it is that the evidence had nothing to do with their decision on what to believe. Right. Because evidence would tell you that snakes don't talk. Right. Because you've seen a million snakes and none of them have ever talked. So you're saying you still believe it
Zero evidence. That's a choice.
But you even have
you weren't compelled by something. You just made a choice.
But you have evidence to the contrary.
And you have evidence to the contrary. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, yeah, there's actually a lot of evidence that says it's not true. And
so
like,
there's right. So like, if you want to be an atheist or you don't, there's not like, well, you believe that, I believe this. It's like, well, no, there's evidence to atheism.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's kind of like dude. That's funny because we said that last week. The guy's like, if I said the sky is blue and you said the sky is red, it's not 50-50.
No.
Sorry, dude.
Like, you have to go to the doctor. You just had a stroke.
You got to go to the fucking doctor. This isn't a 50-50.
You might have had a stroke.
So when you're telling me snakes talk and I'm saying they don't, it's not a 50-50.
No.
Yeah, you're in the like 0.10% psycho. And reality would suggest you're crazy.
You rephrase it and you say, I meant metaphorically.
Yeah, they'd never say that.
No, but I'm saying
and
that's what you do if you wanted to continue that conversation.
And that's what Sam Harris says too, and I fucking love that joke that the most influential Christians in history all got it wrong. But it was you know how to read the Bible correctly.
But it was you.
Yeah. It was you. You figured it out. But that's what I mean. We're like, you try to explain the Inquisition. And you're like, oh, they had it wrong.
And my strength
I figured it out though.
Well, I mean, I look at it like imagine people were lining up. Have you ever, God, this is not a good analogy because I don't know the name of it. There's this show that was on it's like a joke sitcom-y HBO show, and the people are on a spaceship, and it's like a cruise ship that's in space, and they're all kind of like, it's a complete farce. Well, there's one of the scenes where they're like, this isn't even a real ship. We're probably in a studio somewhere. And some of them are like, let me in the airlock. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I don't believe that's really space. So they do it, and they close themselves off, and they shut the fucking door, and they freeze to fucking die in space. So then there's another group of people that go, oh, good one. You guys got this really figured out. You know how to make them look like they're dead. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Those guys left, and they're gone. I'm leaving too. And then they do it, and it's like, it's just a brilliantly written joke.
That the evidence is right in front of you, but you refuse to see it.
Well, most sitcoms have a lot of that in them. That's what they're making fun of.
Right.
Some people laugh at it. They don't know the joke's on them. And that's what makes writers fucking brilliant,
Yeah. I was just thinking about that and fetus shit. Just, I'm at a loss for words. I really am. Like I really have like felt like in the past I felt like, no, we can have a conversation here. And yeah, in the last year especially, but since the former president's tenure, it's a world where I'm like, I don't know how to answer that. I don't know how to reply to you're crazy.
It's the YouTube charlatans of our era. It's what it is. It's the YouTube charlatans. They're fucking smart, and they wanted to make a living not doing anything other than talking shit, and they're smart, and they are nihilistic a lot of times, and they make, and they know how to write, and they know how to read. They're smarter than most people.
Who the fuck are you talking about?
They've made tens of thousands of videos and publications and websites throughout the years that have swayed people into hundreds of different...
I see what you're saying. You're saying the people who have perpetuated these fantasies is what you're talking about.
And they're not that great at it, but it's like the Kenyan thing I was reading about, or somebody was telling me, I can't remember where I heard it, but it's like they purposely misspell the words in the ads because they know that that the people who would still answer them are dumb enough to know those aren't misspelled words. So they're purposely made kind of dumb just to trap in people who only check in psychologically at that level, which is an ultra insult, but just a fact. So when an intellectually sound person sees one of those videos, they immediately hear the tone of an infomercial. But a person who's kind of intellectually challenged or just unaware that they're maybe they're just in a little bit of a cult at that moment. Maybe they're, like I said, they're putting it through a psychological lens of somebody who they are forced to care for or care about, that causes them a bias that allows that information in, And I think it's off the foottails of like Zeitgeist. Did you ever watch that?
Fuck yeah, I did. Yeah,
So,
I
like,
remember that shit.
so-
Isn't that guy like on NBC now?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Possibly. I don't know anything about it beyond that.
Yeah.
But I use it as an example of like the way that video was built and the way that it got through the culture was fucking phenomenal. You know, something like Fight Club or something, you know? It was phenomenal. It like pushed through hard. You know,
why is it so compelling to people? What is that?
Da Vinci Code type thing,
like if I was to like push one of these narratives, let's just pick one of them, and let's pick one that's fun. Flat Earth narrative.
Okay.
And I want to push this narrative, but I don't have the internet.
Well,
it's just fun.
Yeah.
Not very compelling. Well, I could put it on a flyer. I could go do seminars. I could publish it somewhere. You know, like I could find all these avenues to get it out, but I don't think anybody would be compelled. But why is it that if I make a fucking YouTube video, I've automatically got millions of people who are all of a sudden on board with my batshit crazy idea?
I think one of the reasons is because people that take a class on how to build production or screenplays or whatever, right? They learn how to kind of psych people out in segments correctly that fit human psychology, and that works really good on regular people who have the equipment to do those videos but always fail at the right.
But it's only videos. It's only videos.
So my point is when you build bad videos, then you see people who build good ones and you automatically think they're smart.
There's like standard or something.
Because that's what TV looks like.
Right.
Like our fucking Streamlabs thing makes us be apart from each other like that. That's all we have. But it's production of some kind that puts some kind of like makes it look like we're doing something. You know what I mean? Like interesting or something.
Sure.
We're able to look at each other.
So
you know what I'm saying?
I
Like
do.
That tricks people into thinking a little bit like it's more going on than there is.
Yeah, it's more compelling, exactly, because they feel like, I don't know, like there's some authenticity to it for some reason.
Right.
Where like, and I'm saying this because I have people who are close to me.
Sure.
Who believe things they see on the internet.
Oh, of course. We all do.
Right. So that's what I mean. Like, the video for some reason is just very compelling and seems authentic to people. Whereas if it was published, it's like, nah.
Right.
And I think there's also like some weird sense of, I don't know, like, I want to say ownership, like you're part of a club.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, and you're the first in. I think we have a huge line of wanting to be the first in on something.
Yeah.
And so like it makes you cool. It's really part of that hipster generation.
Because of what you're seeing is just so unbelievable, and you're so like invested in it that like other people feel that vibe coming off. Right. You're like, this guy really believes the Earth's flat.
Yeah, you're like, man, the guy's like really. He's like, well, the guy's crazy, but you got to give it to him. Right. He's really into his thing.
Yep.
Like we honored that.
We just did for 4 years. That was basically what that was. You just summarized it right there. Like, that guy's crazy as fuck. That's,
goddamn, man, he's telling him to fuck off, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, okay, so I mean, let's see. There's a part of both of us. I'm sure that can
value in it.
But there's a part of us, and throughout our life, that could have got on board with that concept. But the idea was that he didn't have an alternative concept. See, I'm not saying there's 100% reason why I couldn't have been into Trump. And the problem with Trump was that he ostracized weaker people or people that are disadvantaged, which is just such a bitch move. And so if he would have he could have went after people, I would have been fine with that. If he would have told, part of the government to fuck off, I don't give a shit about none of that. I'm not protecting Nancy Pelosi or any of that. Like, I don't care about that. And I don't care about if he wants to be a hog and then also at the same time fat shame. That shit's fucking hilarious irony to me. I don't give a shit about it. I don't give a shit about any of the sexist shit, really. The part that I don't like about him is he didn't do anything. He literally didn't do anything. No, and the delusion that there's something happened that was great is so fucking stupid. It makes you want to go, I mean, come on, man. Like, the argument is so stupid at this point that it's got nothing to do with any reality from anybody's side. So
what I'm taking from what you're saying there is perhaps part of the psychology that's going on here is that people they appreciate the authenticity or something.
Oh, they definitely did.
Because they feel like it's something that has value.
It's just, and it's rare.
That is rare.
It's rare in that circle.
So what's
government
weird?
Kiss ass.
So what's weird about it? Not weird about it. What's sad about it is because there's so much pride involved.
Right.
That once they get roped in, even once they disagree, they will lie and say they agree. Well, and am I right? Though? So it means like I'm behind I never say his name. I'm behind the former president. All right, and then finally, the guy says something you don't agree with, but you'll never confess. Right. You'll never. And you might actually try to convince yourself, like, no, maybe that's not what I heard. Right. You start to gaslight yourself, like, you know what? Maybe it didn't mean what it meant. Right.
Because you don't want to change your mind.
You don't want to change your middle. Yeah, exactly. You want to do just like that personality thing you just described. Like you're in some club, you know something other people don't know, and if I have to acknowledge that I disagree with one thing, fuck it. Like it invalidates everything I just said I believed in.
And by knowing that by disagreeing with the person that you disagree with, not only that, you're ostracizing yourself from your group because that's the people who agree with you already, probably mostly, and then you're also saying yes to the people who you generally don't like any of their ideas. So by not liking your person, you're saying you like the other person, just like it, because there's really only two choices,
right?
And so that's
so shit.
So how mathematically, just from the last minute of what we were just saying, just that minute, how much does that make it to where it's impossible for it not to be the way it is? Which is, again, why I don't generally get too frustrated about it, simply because I don't see any other way it could be based on what we have. Same as the housing concept. Unless you change some dramatic difference in laws, and you have to pull some regulations back, and you have to add some different ones, and they're going to be made by the people who have all the money. They're the ones that are going to have to agree with it and come up with the idea.
So we started talking.
There's no chance that they're going to come up with it. So you see what I'm saying? Like, so I don't think it's going to happen. I don't even, you know what I mean? Like, I think wealthy people would rather just gate off their communities. And when they go on vacation to different countries, they see that is the choice that most places made. And so I just think that's what America's now. I mean, we're a baby country. When you go to big boy countries, they have just big fucking gates. You know what I mean? They seal them off from everything.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. We started this off by talking about what is shit and what is not shit. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of went there too with the whole being able to have conversation with each other, like a conservative and a liberal, being able to talk about something and come to some mutual consensus. Right. Same kind of thing. Like both of us can disagree on here, but we both have to reach a consensus on what is shit and what is not shit. Right. And then even everything you're saying there too, like from city councils and small towns, deciding what's shit and what's not shit for their town. And just all of us need to have conversations about what is shit and not shit.
We do all the time when we play music all the time, and we're subtly adjusting what we play together, what we think either we like, what other people might like, what the guy you're playing with might like, and you're making a compromise about that all the time.
All the time.
And I don't understand how come people think that their life shouldn't have that in it. Like, that's what keeps me from being a fucking psycho egomaniac dickhead, you know? Like that, like I like, oh man, I could fucking do this, but then, you know, you got to look around for a second and go, wait a minute, how's that going to affect everyone else?
Right.
And if, just generally speaking, if that's just what most people kind of thought life was about, then everybody'd be happier. It wouldn't dramatically change everything. It wouldn't mean everybody didn't go to work or anything. I got a full-time job. I like my job.
I just think the world would be a better place all around.
Generally,
we're talking about even the house
would be a little nicer, a little happier,
a little bit nicer, and I don't know, instead of waking up angry on YouTube. Right. You know what I mean? You wake up and go play golf with,
or just how about not listen to people on videos that are mad all the time?
Dude, it really is YouTube and the internet that's just ruined the fucking world.
Why not watch our show? But why not watch us talk about a situation where we can get elevated and then chill out on it and then talk about it reasonably? And in an hour amount of time, we're not the only ones, but there are other people who don't always make everything about who's right or who's wrong. Right. You know, you can't always make everything about that.
And what's the value in it? That's what I'm just not one of those guys. I understand everybody's different. Some people have those personality types, right? Narcissists too,
sure.
Winning is everything and being right and being wrong. And I've always just been one of those dudes my whole life where I'm I find value in both. If I'm wrong, I learn something. If I'm right, I learn something.
Right.
What difference does it make? What is the value? Is it to validate your superiority? Or something? Is that what it is?
But it doesn't even, like I said, it doesn't even transfer into your children. Like your children could be cool or not. Or
it'll be shaped by society.
Whatever. Yeah. So you want to shape your society if you want to ensure that you are passed on to your kids.
Word.
But if you're not involved in anything or you're not doing anything like that, then you can't. Because, like I said, if you wanted to, you're probably working too much to do that.
Right.
And so it really does kind of come back to those people who own all the stuff and the amount of rent that they charge the owner of the business that takes away from. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it kind of, like I said, people need to learn how to punch up and quit fucking picking on, people who are having a tough time in the world, and they got to quit punching down. Like I like to try to make fun of people who are ahead of me. I like to put pressure on my like superiors, my bosses, on people in the community that I think have advantages. I try to have tough conversations with those people, try to like inspire them to try to think about the world a little bit different, even if it's just for a couple minutes at a grocery store. Like I come across lots of millionaires all the time in this town that I grew up with, that I know. And like a lot of them, most of them, almost all of them are great people. They really are. Like a lot of people, there's a lot of really cool people I know, and they're funny and they got their own way of doing shit. And I'm down with that, but I'm still going to try to influence the way that they think about it, so that they can like try to change stuff, because that's my role. What's wrong with that? Like they're doing their life and I'm doing mine, and like I hope they want to get us at their parties to rock.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Maybe
it's all good.
You maybe even kind of, I don't know, spread some of that stuff.
And I don't want to you can't change people's minds if you're offending them. Like my offensive side is I'm trying to be like funny with like somebody going, oh shit. That's my offensive side. But generally speaking, people are trying to take care of their families, and they're trying to worry about themselves as much as they can, because that is important, to take care of your family and to take care of your close friends and things like that. So,
and your neighbors and your community. And that
goes too far, and you forget about. Yeah, sometimes it goes too far, and you forget about your community.
I mean, there's some fucked up shit going on, especially in this state, in Washington. Like I was just thinking about like, if I lived somewhere else. The one I wanted to bring this up on here a few times. The reason I moved out here, one huge reason why I moved out here in 1998, and then eventually I moved out here for good, was because you have to pick the fuckheads you want to live around. Okay?
Right.
I live around a bunch of yuppies and fuckheads.
Sure.
But the thing that I like about it is they don't steal my shit.
Right.
And I'm serious. So like I'm from the city where I told you this, and it's not even a slight exaggeration. My car was broken into once a week.
Right.
Because I left it unlocked and there's nothing in it.
Sure.
And I was trying to do it as a deterrent, but not in Portland. In Portland, people steal your garbage.
Well, I agree.
So I was thinking about like, man, what if I lived in like Tacoma?
Sure.
Like, dude, that place, like, every day there's some gnarly, fatal accident on the road, some meth head at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, every single day. The catalytic converter theft thing.
Right.
Oh, my fucking God. Like, it makes you feel like the world is just scum.
Right.
It's fucking fucked up, man.
Right.
And that shit's not going in reverse.
But shit, dude, that was pre-pandemic. That was pre-Trump. Like it was burning long ago.
Oh yeah.
And I'm saying like people, and like,
oh yeah, it has nothing to do with that.
No, I know, but I mean, I'm saying depending on who you ask, there would be people who would be able to have pretty good arguments on a whole bunch of contributing factors. But we started getting super like I said, government based. It's
housing.
But I mean, not just that. The government started giving money to like war contractors instead of low income housing. Like the budgets got changed around quite a bit. Like and this is really just the second iteration. Like these are just more and more generations of the same thing spilling out.
Yep.
And I don't understand what my problem is. Really is like how glaringly obvious is that this is 100% Americans. Like, you know what I mean? That's one thing that never gets talked about is like we get like refugees and all this stuff, and we talk about migrants and refugees and all this bullshit, but like literally the entire homeless community almost exclusively is just American high school dropouts.
Yep.
Like it's like, I'm not saying that you can make housing available for for those people. That's not the point of this. These people belong living probably with their families still, and their families shouldn't have been pushed out of their communities by it. But that's what really happened.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is not housing for homeless people. That is not a smart idea. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with making huge communities for homeless people. I don't see how you can possibly do it safely.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, what I was saying is it's just
they need to be not you. I'm saying you'll hear that. That's the counter argument to our argument.
No, that's the product of just the overall market.
No, regular people with full-time jobs that have had full-time jobs, for especially people who have had the same job for 10 years, need to have an exclusive advantage to buy property and housing because they're part of the community. They need to be cheap, if not free, for them to be part of your community if they've shown that they can commit to your community. And I don't have any reason to think that wouldn't be profitable, as well as those people would be able to consume their own children of mental illness into their own homes and things like that. And that they shouldn't pay anything. I just don't understand that the rental market and the tax base and all that shit is enough money that no one needs an entry fee. You just don't need it. The cost for a person that just has a regular job to even be in a 30-year loan really hurts your community. It was never designed like that. And if you want to make America great again, you have to have a community where people are able to be one-parent incomes.
That fucking slogan's hilarious. It's such a crybaby slogan.
Oh, it is.
We're America great again. Things used to be better.
But if you made a list of things that people meant by that, there'd be one of them would be one-income homes.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
That'd be the old days, right?
To be able to afford to live somewhere. Right. That sounds novel.
Right.
Nobody's ever thought of that before. Not in this fucking country.
And then having weekends off, because that's making America great. Like, you got to be able to have, and your kid plays baseball locally. So that means you would actually build fields locally, because that would make America great, right? I mean, there's these things, right? Like, somewhere near that ball field, a guy could probably make some hot dogs, so you could buy them and eat them. So that's like a deregulation of food trucks in certain areas that, why can't you drive it around? Why does it have to have a spot?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's the other thing, though, is regulations can go both ways. And
that's what I mean. Yeah. But that's why they need to be... Regulations need regulated.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? You can't just let them all go fucking ape shit and go, wait a minute, this one didn't make sense.
So it's funny. It's funny what a tangled web that monstrosity it is, the housing market. Because, let's just go, let's just make something up. It's like a cartoon. And I'm a governor. I'm a governor. I'm a governor of the state of Ameritonia.
Howdy, Maritonian.
And I'm going to fucking pass a regulation in my state that says you cannot rent a house for more than this. Okay. Boom. Problem solved. No. Here comes the trickle down. Like I was saying, this tangled web, this monstrosity. Okay, so now there's some developers that are losing out on some money. There's some homeowners. There's some tax revenue tangled up. How much? A lot.
Oh, yeah.
So where does this tax money go?
I don't know, Jim.
Exactly. So remember when I was telling you about how when a billionaire sinks in the middle of the ocean, the world doesn't notice?
Right.
Because his money's not out in the community working for the community?
No, it's like erosion.
Same fucking thing with property tax revenue.
Right.
Because we're told it goes to fund this and it goes to fund that, but nothing's working. The roads are still fucked up and the housing market still sucks. It's another redundant system, meaning this fucking tax revenue would sink in the middle of the ocean and none of us, our lives would never fucking change.
Right.
Basically, this money is just like Department of Transportation. It goes to fund projects that are fucking redundant, to do fucking arbitrary shit that doesn't, we're going to rebuild the Aurora Bridge. But I-5 hasn't been fucking fixed in 60 years.
All right. It's that's a different budget.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. It's first-class waste. Right. If you passed regulations that did cap the rental market, that did cap how much you can sell for in certain parts of town, so certain parts of town, millionaires can still go get them.
Right.
We got a spot for you right over here. Right next to the sewage treatment facility.
Right.
But the neighborhood gets to live by the park, motherfucker.
Right.
And you're going to have to fucking jump through losing loopholes. Anyway, my point is, wrapping it up, is that revenue would come back. and it would come back in different ways. The revenue that went to go fund arbitrary and redundant programs funded by tax money would now be in the pockets of people who rent and buy.
Right.
And now they're buying new cars and new lawnmowers and they're painting their homes and fucking, you know what I mean? Like that money's still there. It didn't disappear.
Right.
It's just not sitting in one guy's bank account.
Well, the thing is the difference is between a B&B that has different people in it all the time or a person renting the house all the time. The only difference is one group of people who own the house are making a fucking way more money than they ever deserved on anything.
Boom.
And the other one is that you don't have a community because that person's not able to afford that house because it's not available to B&B. So, I mean, we're just looking at greed. You're just looking, it's a straight, and it's people who are supposed to have jobs.
Greed.
And then they wouldn't be able to, if they had jobs, they wouldn't be able to afford these other things like buying these crazy homes because they wouldn't be making this exorbitant amount that they make off the B&B. So then the other homes wouldn't be able to be so much money. So it's like literally, it's just like everybody already knew that they were going to get ripped off by that shit, and they let some kind of fake like libertarian argument, like free market argument,
right?
Like literally destroy everything when we've already busted up monopolies as like far back as Bill Gates.
Yeah, and you just said it earlier too. Like you're talking about like trolls who are smart. It's kind of the same thing too. Like you throw a fucking monkey wrench in there, which is throw in a boogeyman, throw in a scapegoat, right, to keep people angry and have the fervent conversation of anger be directed away from the fucking problem.
Well, that's what all of the social issues are.
Absolutely,
because they're all Supreme Court issues. Like I've said to you before. All of the stuff, no matter you're left or right, if you don't want abortion or you want gay rights or you want trans rights or any of that, they're all going to end up being things that become Supreme Court issue things. And they're not going to be, they don't mix in with budget issues. They don't mix in with like laws that are based in like what the government spends the money on or what the government's going to have a committee to discuss about or any of that stuff, which is the reason why you vote for different people. And so they do influence it by what they support and what they don't support and how they run the committees. So there is a reason to vote for people that support what you support. But the argument is different because it comes from a legal argument of judges